Hey guys, I'm Sarah, and I'm a science fiction novelist. Am I a qualified expert on anything? Probably not, but perhaps unsurprisingly for a writer, I like to read, learn new things, and occasionally dig up an old fossil or two in the search for truth. For a writer, that's crucial. For a lifelong learner, it's a goal. Of course, there are plenty of people out there who prefer we forget, and because not forgetting ticks them off, all the more reason to make it a passion. In Orwell's 1984, the memory hole was a literal hole down which inconvenient truths were disposed of. But our cultural memory hole is way more than that. We have so much stuff just thrown at us all the time, it's easy to lose the important things that have settled in here under the sludge. But if we take the time to dig them out, we just might find something valuable. While I'm getting things together to self-publish my next novel, I've compiled a master list of books and documents I want to check out, and I'm working my way forward through time. I want to see what we can learn from reading these works directly, because you can't really know how you judge an idea until you've let it speak for itself. So climb on down, grab a shovel, and we'll see if we can find some diamonds in the rough. This is the Memory Hole. So, for today I've dug up two of the earliest known written documents in existence, the Instructions of Shurrupak and the Kesh Temple Hymn. These documents are translations of Sumerian cuneiform tablets dating back to around 2600 BC that were found in tells around Abu Salabik in present-day Iraq along the Euphrates River. Before we go any further, some of you may be asking, what is a tell? It's how you know someone's lying. Well, it is that, but it is also a hill of dissolved bricks and garbage that has been built up over and over again by human settlements. Obviously, you'll find them in places where people have been around for a long time, and you won't believe what people will throw away. Unfortunately, you also won't believe what people will steal. Up until the Second Iraq War, the oldest known copy of the instructions, which was on a tablet called the Abu Salabik tablet, was stored in the Iraq Museum in Baghdad, but was lost when the museum was looted. Fortunately for us, it had already been photographed and translated, so we can actually still read the text. The Kesh Temple Hymn was also found in Abu Salabik and is a set of lines praising the temple at the settlement of Kesh. The translations I've used are at the website of the electronic corpus of Sumerian literature. If you want to check them out, you can find links in the video description below, along with any works that I have used to do my research, so that you know where I'm getting my information, because that's important. The Instructions of Shurrupak are a set of advice prepared by a father to instruct his son, Zi-ud-Surah, on the proper way to live. Interestingly, there was also a Sumerian city called Shurrupak around this time, but it is believed that the father figure also carried this name. His father is believed to have been Ubaratutu, whom on the Sumerian list of kings was the last king prior to the deluge, a flood event that is alleged to have been the origin of the Euphratian flood myths that would eventually evolve into the Bible story of Noah and the flood. There has been some debate about whether Ubaratutu may not actually be the father, since Shurrupak was also a city, and the confusion may have been due to a mistranslation of an epithet in the king's list naming him Man of Shurrupak, but we can save the Sumerian king's list for another day. Regardless of his identity, the instructions are mainly to be understood as a father's advice to his son about how to get ahead and live a good, virtuous life. Just goes to show, thinking about what makes a man good has been one of humanity's obsessions since the time we achieved sentience. Because both of these were translations of discarded tablets, the information is unfortunately incomplete. And that kind of left me feeling like I was looking at the transcript of a bad radio transmission. There are missing words and uncertainties about the translation that make it a little difficult to understand, but I'm sure the translators did the best they could. Some of the stanzas contain advice more similar to a document like the Ten Commandments. There's the more obvious things, such as fighting, stealing, rape, and adultery are bad, don't do them, but there was also some more philosophical advice in there, such as when the father spoke of the value of property versus the incalculable value of one's children. There are a few other bits of advice that are interesting. Apparently, the pence rule was observed even in ancient Sumeria because there's a line that reads, "My son, you should not sit alone in a chamber with a married woman." Some of the advice is pretty shrewd, such as this little tidbit, "A thief is a lion, but after he has been caught, he will be a slave." Obviously, this comes from the idea that, while you're out there doing crime and all that, you're one tough mother, but once the government catches you, they own your ass. Other advice is downright creepy, such as the advice discussing the purchasing of slaves, which goes as follows. "You should not buy a free man, he will always lean against the wall. You should not buy a palace slave girl, she will always be the bottom of the barrel. You should rather bring down a foreign slave from the mountains, or you should bring somebody from a place where he is an alien, my son. Then he will pour water for you when the sun rises, and he will walk before you. He does not belong to any family, so he does not want to go to his family. He does not belong to any city, so he does not want to go to his city." Obviously, things have moved on a bit since then, but it is interesting to see how aware they were of the dynamics of such a relationship and how someone in a subservient position could be controlled. Some of the advice is also rather amusing. For instance, one of the first lines in the translation I found reads, "Do not buy a donkey who brays, it will split your midriff." And of course, reading that, you're thinking, what? That doesn't make any sense. Another translation of that line says that it might have meant a donkey who brays too much. But still, you can't help but laugh. The first version is silly. Another line reads, "You should not pass judgment when you drink beer." Of course, that's something a lot of people could learn from. If you decide to read it, it's not too hard to understand, and you'll learn about some of the things that were important for getting along in ancient Sumeria. Some of it is even still applicable, at least aside from the stuff we've moved beyond. The other text that I looked at is the Kesh Temple Hymn, which I said before was a set of lines in praise of the temple of the city of Kesh, which was another city in Sumer. It's about 3 pages long, printed out, and it's mostly a rote recitation of, "Hey, look how awesome we are!" Because it's a hymn, it's also a little repetitive. It's divided into 8 stanzas, marked by the first house, the second house, third house, and so on. However, you will definitely want to have a web browser handy while reading this unless you're familiar with Sumerian gods. Gozer the Destructor was, of course, nowhere to be seen, so don't get your streams crossed looking for him. The Ghostbusters won't help you there. On the other hand, there are plenty of mentions of Nintud, the goddess of childbirth, and various other deities. You will see a lot of Nintud, and a lot of the same ending phrase, over and over again. "Will anyone bring forth something as great as Kesh? Will any other mother ever give birth to someone as great as its hero Akki? Who has ever seen anyone as great as Nintud?" Yeah, they really liked Nintud. If you have the patience to look them up as you read, the document is also a nice way to get a crash course on the various beliefs of the time. Praised be to cherished Kesh and Nintud, I suppose. It's a bit less earthly than the other document, but no less interesting. It's not something you'll likely just pick up and understand, unless Sumerian gods are your shtick. But if you want to go beyond the document to figure out who all these gods are, by all means do so. I thought of it as kind of a literary scavenger hunt. So, yeah, a couple of documents to start off with, and hopefully you'll seek them out for yourself. Next time, I'll be talking about the Unas Pyramid texts in the Palermo stone from around 2400 BC in ancient Egypt. I'm still adding to the list of books and documents I want to check out, so if you think of a document that should be considered for the master list, sound off about it and I'll look it up. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts in the comments, like, subscribe, stay curious, and keep digging. You never know what you'll find.